All right, thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining us, it's Reports Desk Africa. We start off in West Africa, precisely Liberia. Now, the inauguration of Joseph Boakai as Liberian president on Monday came to an abrupt end when he suddenly suffered a heat stroke while reading his acceptance speech. Now, Boakai, who was declared Liberia's president on November 20th, 2023, with about 50.64% of the votes, to defeat then incumbent George Weah, was helped out of the podium by security details, although the president faced a shaky start as he was sworn in on Monday, as he stuttered to a halt. He has now resumed duties following his recovery a few days later. News Central's Niyi Omoniyi has been following the story for a while, and then he compiled this particular report.
So help me God.
At age 79, Joseph Boakai was sworn in as Liberia's president on January 22, 2024, after a narrow victory in the second round of voting in November 2023. This makes him the oldest person ever to assume the nation's highest office. His election marks a transition of leadership as he succeeds George Weah, Liberia's youngest elected president. Boakai brings decades of experience to the role, having served as vice president from 2006 to 2018 under former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. He was defeated by Weah in the 2017 presidential election. In his inaugural address, President Boakai outlined his priorities to address Liberia's most pressing challenges.
Our plan to fix the ills we are inheriting must go together with realistic expectations. We will act in the first 100 days of our administration and then diligently pursue the rescue mission. We are here to rekindle your hope, to reposition us on the national pathway.
However, there was brief concern when he paused during his speech due to a minor medical issue. While the 2023 elections were an important milestone that reinforced Liberia's democratic reforms, the health scare cast a dark shadow on his ability to rule. The new administration faces significant obstacles, including poverty, corruption, and effect of past conflict, as many expect reforms that will improve living standards, sustain stability, and economic opportunity for all Liberians. In Lagos for News Central, Niyi Omoniyi.
All right, now we're expecting a guest all the way from Liberia, Bennie Bravo Johnson. Hopefully he is able to join us when he can, we hope. And just before we went on break, Shewa, we were discussing, he's currently the oldest president on the continent at 79. I'm not sure when his birthday will be, but of course he's going to be 80 very soon. Yes. And the person who handed over to him was the youngest president Liberia has ever had, George Weah. And we're discussing, why at that age would somebody still be aspiring to be the president of a nation that has been experiencing lots of challenges? Yes. You know, it's... I think something needs to be investigated into why African leaders are vying for power at such age. But then again, if you talk about African leaders, let's look at the President of the United States as well, President Joe Biden, who is also, I think he's also in his late 70s or in his 80s as well. And the question I would like to push forward now is, do you think, and this is me asking you now, what do you think that we should also start considering age and medical records when people begin to say that they want to run for office, particularly for president and governorship?
Definitely, because I would just take an example. Because Liberia is a country. And I know that as a business owner, for example, if you own a company and you want someone to, for example, lead that company, you would not, by any chance, want someone who is older than the company itself, number one. Even if the company might be actually pretty young, but if you want someone to lead a heterogeneous set of people, people with different beliefs, cultures, and everything, business and all that, and then you're bringing, the age might not actually be the problem here, but it's actually a problem. I mean, we have younger people who can do this. Liberia went from picking someone that was the youngest in the history of their country to going to the oldest. So, I mean, how did they transition? I'm sure the age difference between the two of them is about 20 years.
If not more.
So this is somebody who could actually birth the former president.
True.
So it's just a joke to start with that. How did you go from bringing someone that was young to someone that was old? Then let's talk about his state of health. State of health is also something. This is somebody that has been nicknamed Sleepy Joe. We know Sleepy Joe. I mean, he has been caught in different, public settings, sleeping off, and then we know that his media aide said that, oh, he has a very tiny eyes, so when he sits, he's always looking like he's sleeping and all that. Those are really those are excuses. I mean, we can tell from someone that has a tiny eyes to someone that is sleeping. So how can they explain what happened at the inauguration? Exactly. We cannot keep having this. It's an embarrassment to the continent at large, because we went from Nigeria's president going viral while he was campaigning for presidency. You know, he gave us series of back-to-back viral sounds on TikTok, Instagram, that Nigerians. He literally said he does not want to check social media at some point because it was giving him high blood pressure. But you would not blame these people that were doing this, because you were giving them reasons to talk.
Giving them
content. I was saying earlier, while we were watching the report, that he promised Liberians rekindled hope. And the Nigerians were also promised renewed hope, are going through whatever it is they're going through at this point in time. And this is some people, that like the age difference between them are not so far apart. So how long do we keep doing this? So is this a problem of we do not know who to elect at what point in time? Or is it a problem with the election umpire?
That's exactly where I was going to come in. Now, whether or not we do not know who to elect, remember that Africa has been tagged the youngest continent so far. Right, the age of the average African right now, we're looking at our population distribution, and Africans are young people. That's why business opportunities are coming to Africa. Exactly. That's why investors are coming to Africa, because part of what the things they're looking at is the age range of the average African. There's a lot of young people between the ages of 18 and 40.
Yes.
And if majority of the population, more than 60% of our population, falls between that age bracket, how come we cannot find leaders that will fall within that age bracket, or even 10 years after that age bracket, such that most of our there were, if I'm not mistaken, there were 8 elections on the African continent last year, including Nigeria. And of all the 8 countries that are elected, the average age will probably be in its 60s, if not a bit more. You know, look at Nigeria's president, look at Liberia's president, look at, there was not DRC, yes, there was DRC late last year. You know, and then there was, I've forgotten the other country now that experienced the coup, Gabon. The Gabonese president, who was also sick, you know, and old before the coup now occurred. You know, so there's all of these issues that I think that we need to look at. And you were saying, is there something, you know, that these people really want to get in the seat of the presidency that makes them go there, even at such old ages? Because if truly it is about service to the people, you would be looking at, can I actually give this service that I want to give? My health is failing me. My age is no longer on my side. You know, and of course, like it or not, at some point it begins to affect the mental capabilities of the individual or individuals going to public office. So these are certain things that I think they will need to look at. But if there's any plus I would like to take out of Liberia's election, going back to the election now, is the fact that we know that most times the incumbent president always wins. In this case, unfortunately, George Weah didn't win as the incumbent president. They had to go into a runoff, and then Boakai came
I was going to come to that because I feel like we may not necessarily blame Liberians to a very large extent, because we see now that as much as we always, you know, call for young leadership in Africa, the younger population are beginning to fail. There is a clear example in Nigeria at the moment. Beta Edu did not only represent younger population, she also represented the female gender. And these are people that had called for leadership representation over and over again. Now, you people are there. And then this is someone that had led that particular administration way before her, the ministry before her, is also like under probation. He's also been investigated. So this is also a woman. So, I mean, who do we now turn to? George Weah himself was also have like corruption allegations that he's still battling with. So it looks like he took the country like many years backward. And then the younger people are saying, we do not even trust the younger ones now. So someone that used to be like I think a former footballer.
Yeah, football. As a matter of fact, look, I think George Weah was he was a global sweetheart, so to speak, because he's the only African who has won European Footballer of the Year, the Italian. Okay, no, others have won that, but the Ballon d'Or, which is like World Footballer of the Year. He did so well in his time as a footballer, and so because of that, first of all, he won the hearts of young people who like football. He charmed the hearts of ladies. And even he got interest from abroad, from Europeans who were interested in his background. He came first of all to challenge Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. He didn't have enough experience, so he lost. He went back and grew through the ranks of politics after being a football legend, and then came back and won the election. So there was a lot of expectation from him, being that he was young, he was charming, and played football. People just thought this guy is going to carry the hopes and dreams of all the young people. Unfortunately and sadly, he didn't do so well. So
the good thing is that we may not necessarily just cancel the younger population because we saw what they are doing with Ibrahim Traore is from which country again? But we know Ibrahim Traore is doing so well for the country, and people have said that he's taking up the legacy of Thomas Sankara, I think, at the time. And it looked as if we can actually trust the younger population. So it might not probably be a thing of the age, gender, or health. So maybe we can talk about the personality now. So people should get dragged for who they are now. Maybe not their age, not their female gender or anything, but who they are. Because we've seen Ibrahim Traore did it well in his country. True. So it doesn't stop George Weah from doing it well in his country, irrespective of his age.
Very, very true. I think we have our guest joining us now, Bennie Johnson, Bennie Bravo Johnson. Bennie, are you there with us? Okay, Bennie, we're unable to hear you. Could you kindly unmute your device, please, so we can hear you?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay. But I think there's a mix-up with the name. This is Gbenga.
Oh, okay. All right, well, thank you for joining us, Bennie, and congratulations on the inauguration. I believe congratulations are still in order.
Thank you. I think there's a mix-up somewhere.
Okay. Okay, all right. So we'll come back to Bennie when we're able to get through to him. But like you clearly were saying, we should actually pick people not because of their ages, not because of certain criteria, but because of their personality.
Yes.
But then I think the problem is that a lot of African countries. One question I was going to ask Bennie eventually, if he eventually gets to join us, is: was it a case of just picking the next best option because the one we had before was not working?
Yes.
Or because he actually is the one who won the hearts of the people? In the case of Nigeria, during the time when we had the former President Muhammadu Buhari, I remember that a lot of people were saying anybody but Jonathan, anybody but Jonathan. And then we went for President
Muhammadu Buhari. We didn't care to know the history of this person that we were bringing in.
So we went for Buhari. And I'm seeing that it's become a pattern in many countries, right? Where people are coming from a bad place and they just want anything. Unfortunately, not realizing that anything could mean going from bad to worse, and I'm hoping that that's not going to be the case for Liberia.
Well, I mean, for everything, his health is already a bigger challenge.
Flag, yeah.
So Liberians should prepare to have a president that will probably be going overseas from time to time for medical checkup, because these people would never want to stay in Africa to check for their health status.
Unfortunately, Nigerians, we are used to that kind of overseas president.
Exactly. So we know when they say, our president is gone again, and then just go. So it's just as if these people do not exactly care about what goes on in their motherland. So I'm just really bothered and sad at the same time, because for a very long time, I feel like the black people or Africans have been endangered species for too long. And we know that whatever it is that happened in colonial times is happening again. Leave neo-colonialism. People were living en masse, leaving the African continent to go to the European countries. And we know what happens there. As much as it's a better economic climate, but it's not a better economic climate for black people. They try to strive to, get the same fair share of benefits that the white folks are getting. It is even worse for people who are recognized as African Americans. They are not recognized there, neither are they recognized here. So they can't come home and they cannot stay over there. So a lot of them have seen people call for, okay, let's go back home, let's go back to Africa. They say, well, my DNA says I'm Nigerian, but do Nigerians recognize you as Nigerians? The Liberians recognize. But if these leaders could just for once, do their job and get the continent to be better for it, to be a toast for investors. Like, I mean, it has every potential to be a toast for investors.
Definitely.
But if you can just do your job for once and maybe get people to come back to their country, we have the best brains out there. We have the best technical, the skilled people out there. If you look at people that are actually leading the tech space, even globally, you're likely to find at least 10 African persons for every 20 groups of people.
Very true.
So why are we wasting these people away? They are not even getting, they're getting their full capacity to work overseas, but they're not getting paid for that capacity. When they can just decide to stay home, get the full capacity, get paid for it, and be with their family members where they belong, where they can, you know, open their windows and see a fellow black person. They're not working under extreme weather conditions and all that. So Liberia, I don't know, I mean, the president's supposed to run for, is it a 5-year term?
5-year term.
So they're basically in for another 5-year term of a sick president. He did not just start falling sick now. He had been sick. They are aware. His team were aware that this person is not medically fit. Yeah. And he even had to show it at the inauguration. It was too early. I mean, if you knew that you were not even healthy enough, why are you giving a 1-hour inauguration speech? If you indeed know what you were going to say, if you just give us bullet points, you know, I'm going to do this, and that, and then just leave. Why did you have to wait till you had
to be honest, most of the things that he said that he was trying to say are things that he had already highlighted during his campaign period, you know, so why repeat? Anyways, I really hope that Liberia is not in for drama, because he's coming in at age 79. If he's going to stay 5 years, which means that God sparing his life, he will be there till 84. That's quite, you know, quite an old age for a president. But, you know, we can only but wish him the best and hope that the people of Liberia would also throw their weight behind him, and I think we'll get better.
We can only hope.
We can only hope.
We can only
All right, we'll take this very quick break. When we come back, we're still going to be staying in the West African region, but we're going to be looking into Nigeria, particularly Lagos, the Commercial Nerve Center. Are you from Lagos? Do you live in Lagos? Do you buy food in styrofoam plastic packs? Things are about to change for you. Do stay with us. And thank you again for staying with us. Now, this next topic concerns me a lot because I love food. Food vendors and end users of styrofoam food packs have kicked against the ban imposed by the Lagos state government on single-use plastics. Yes, that's the styrofoam pack you can see there. Now, the state government has urged all producers, distributors, and end users of styrofoam packs to take the ban seriously and find alternatives or risk heavy fines and other penalties, including the sealing of their premises. Now, News Central's Adesewa Odusoga, who's seated right here, compiled this report as it hurts all of us because we might just be losing something that we like, which is food.
Styrofoam is an extruded polystyrene foam that is often made into insulation, packaging, and food containers, such as beverage cups, egg cartons, and disposable plates and trays. The most common form of styrofoam used in Nigeria are food containers, mostly used at eateries, local restaurants, and even parties to package foods. But these styrofoam have now become a threat to the environment, particularly in Lagos, Nigeria, a city that generates over 13,000 metric tons of waste per day, most of which contains these plastics. They are found in canals, gutters, and sometimes, in rare cases, floating on the surfaces of flooded areas and streets. To this effect, the Lagos state government has now placed a ban on the usage of this single-use plastic with immediate effect. The State Commissioner for the Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, who declared this via a social media platform, warned that producers of this plastic could also be made to bear the cost of the daily cleanup of their product from roads and drainage channels, which runs into tens of millions of naira daily.
So the issue also, which is our own challenge, quite frankly, is it also lies with our waste disposal system, you understand, and practices. What have we been able to get people how have we been able to get people to dispose of their waste within the system? at least being able to identify some of these single-use plastics that are recyclable and being able to dispose them in a very proper and appropriate manner that makes recycling easy.
However, some food vendors in Lagos are kicking against this ban, insisting that such a pronouncement should have been done with prior notice or a grace period.
Most of the shops that are selling all this pack, if you go to their shop, all this pack very load, that they load it to their shop. If they said they will stop selling it, means it will affect them also. Because I don't know how they will do those markets. And the company that supply those markets to them, I don't think they will still collect it back. They will talk to governments for them to give us more time. Then I will be happy, because so that those that have it in the shop will at least sell it even outside Lagos. They will go and supply all those markets.
The state government, through the Commissioner for the Environment and Water Resources, has now called for the immediate implementation of the ban and the clampdown on production companies and distribution outlets of styrofoams across the state to prevent further distribution. In Lagos, for News Central, Adesewa, Odusoga.
All right, we have joining us to discuss this further is a broadcast journalist, Gbenga, who now joins us via Zoom. Thank you so much, Gbenga, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Gbenga, you're a broadcast journalist, and we're going to be talking from the perspective of journalists now. I know it's been known that the pronouncement of the styrofoam ban was placed over 3 years ago, but was never enforced. Now, what do you think propels this move now? Bearing in mind that the commissioner is saying that this should take immediate effect. So if it was not enforced then, so we know that the publicity on it was not as much as we do have now. So what do you think probably propelled for the commissioner to just say, you know what, we are not going to take this anymore. With immediate effect, we are placing a ban on styrofoam and single-use plastics?
For much of my commentary on all the platforms that I've had opportunity to speak, I've always spoken from the perspective that government and its agencies are not to be trusted because they have given us a lot of reason for them not to be trusted. But in this particular scenario, the facts speaks for itself. The videos that you just played just now to talk about this issue, the video put out by the government agency to pay to their point on why they need to effect the ban immediately shows to us clearly that this is something that is long overdue. And on this one, I must give kudos to the Honorable Commissioner for Environment for having the political will and spine to ensure that this law that has been pronounced for over 3 years is effected and enforced. We might want to blame the government from the perspective that a lot of awareness was not done on this issue in the course of the last 3 years, but that's not the fault of the Honorable Commissioner. But even with all the awareness, Nigerians have shown themselves over time as people who don't take government serious until government begins to enforce its law. There are several laws in several facets of our lives, including building laws and other laws like that, that even when government make consistent effort to announce, to sensitize people, people are naturally of the mindset that, no worry, they're no good, and they go take all this one, they no rush us. The companies that are providing this styrofoam knows this thing. The people who are in the value chain, sometimes they know this thing, but they think that it will not happen. It is one of those things that they say and they don't follow up on, not knowing that there will always be a time when we will have a Pharaoh who does not know Moses, or who does not know Joseph, as the biblical saying goes. I'm not saying the Honorable Commissioner is a Pharaoh in this scenario, but I'm using that analogy to tell us that, you see, many of the things that the government enforce in law have been done for a long time, and they've made announcements, but people do not pay attention. And I think that because of the health issues that are attached to some of the usage of this particular styrofoam, we need to ensure the enforcement immediately. Don't forget that when this styrofoam get dumped into, I mean, many of our beaches are, you can't visit them. If you travel on the Third Mainland Bridge and you're looking over from the Third Mainland Bridge, you see all of this dirt filling part of the Yano to Ilaje to Otodobami and all those areas. And the more effort they put into clean it up, the more people dump, and then it seems as if the government is not doing anything. So it is like cutting the snake from the head right now and not the tail, as it has been done before with all the previous measures that have not worked despite all the effort that have been put in place. So, and if you look at the health effect side of the issue, I think we all should support the government on this one. It is most definitely going to affect a lot of people. It is going to affect the people who are in the production, in the resale, and all the value chain along the line, including food vendors, because even the food we used to buy for maybe 500 naira, for example, now will now jump to 700 naira, because if they want to use the proper plastic, which is not the single used one, maybe it will go for 200, because with this ban on styrofoam, you should expect that the price of the other product will skyrocket most definitely. But it is something that is worth it for our health eventually, because if we don't ban it and people begins to fall sick, the same amount you think you want to save by using the styrofoam, you're going to spend it on medicine, and that may not be enough to sort the problem that it would have brought along with it.
Okay, Gbenga, I first of all, I think I like the fact that you use analogies like, Pharaoh and Joseph. And I know that Nigerian people have their analogy. I hope they don't use it. That's we no grief for anybody. I hope that we're not going to use that in this case so that we can move forward. But here's the thing now, right? So the argument is that the styrofoam boxes are cheaper than, the reusable plastics, making it affordable for the average man. And of course, we know what the economy of Nigeria has turned into right now. Like you clearly stated, the prices of everything else will go up once there's an increase in the cost of production, aka change of the plastic bowls. Now, is this enough reason for critics to question the feasibility of an immediate ban? And I emphasize on the word immediate, immediate ban on such commonly used products. I mean, the price going up is going to cause more cost for people to feed.
Well, the immediate is the area that I'm giving kudos to the Honorable Commissioner on it, because if the Honorable Commissioner does not make this pronouncement immediate and make it so public and easily getting the support of the governor, who have seen that, like we have the Minister for Interior as the super minister right now in Abuja. This is our super commissioner in Lagos as far as Lagos is concerned. And if it does not go the route of immediate implementation, people will not listen. It has happened several times over. Go to almost all of our markets. They've ignored all laws that has to do with safety. Many of our market government have gone there to do sensitization to them on fire safety, on a lot of safety, on displaying their wares on the road. But they will not listen. When fire happens, for example, and the fire vehicle could not get access into this market, they will still come back to blame the government. And so in the same vein, this issue of the use of styrofoam, the many health challenges that people have been facing is because when these styrofoam are done into drainages and canal, then you get things like typhoid, you get things like malaria, you get things like that. You are spending a lot more on treating every time because many of the drainages are blocked. When it gets into the sea, the fish that we eventually buy, eat them, it comes into their system, excuse me, and then this fish becomes a poison into our system or any other of the aquatic life that are being endangered by all this cascading effect. So if we are looking at the price and the economic challenge at the moment, I will tell you, Oha, that it is those who are alive, who are healthy, that will have those considerations. But if you are alive and unhealthy, all those considerations would not matter. And if the government is doing something for once to ensure that they help us to be alive and to be healthy, and also to ensure that our environment are neat. I mean, a lot of our people who they japa and then they send us beautiful pictures of cities and areas, all clean, drainages, rivers and all the rest, all clean. Why? Because many of the governments in some of these places had laws in place and people obey those laws. Why would we misbehave at our Muritala Mohammed here and then get to Heathrow and comport ourselves? We need a government that will say immediately, I want this thing effected. And you see that the federal government is even taking a cue, because the honorable minister at the federal level is taking a cue that they are going to implement this very soon too. For the manufacturers and those along the value chain of this product, I'm sure that they had a meeting, I think yesterday or early this morning, with the Honorable Commissioner, where it was agreed that they are going to give them a 3 weeks or 3-month moratorium to be able to mop up all the products they have and then find alternatives. Challenges like this is the master of invention, and this goes further to speak to the issue of investment in R&D. Many of our companies, both private and public, are not investing so much in R&D. How many of them are giving university money to do research for them and not waiting for government to place a ban on what they are doing right now because many of the development that we have all over the world today, many of the technology that we're using today are developed because companies will give university professors money for research to get these things done. So it has a lot of cascading effect, and the issue is that if the government does not do this immediate effect kind of thing, it will not work, because they will lobby their way to ensure that it does not work. And we must give kudos to the Honorable Commissioner and support. Yes, it's going to affect me too. I'm like every other average Nigerian who has used Styrofoam in the past, who has even used Styrofoam recently. So let's not pretend like holier than thou, because it is cheaper. I mean, the 100 pack of the Styrofoam, the last time I priced was 1,700 naira. The normal reusable plastic is 7,000 naira. So the gap is wide between them. We understand, but at the end of the day, what matters the most? Good health or profit?
Well, I mean, that was really well explanatory, and then it made a lot of sense. And to be honest, for environmentalists, the Lagos State move was quite a welcome one that could not only cut down on waste, but also reduce carbon emissions. And then for a fact, for example, I was very much excited when I saw the news. I commended the move by the Lagos State Commissioner at the time, because for every time I walk on Lagos Street and I see gutters filled with this waste, it bothers me to say that why is our waste disposal, the culture of waste disposal system in Nigeria is very poor. I mean, I've witnessed this a lot of times when I take public transport, and the conductors, after eating a meal with this Styrofoam, just throw them on the road. I mean, how do you think of the next thing to do is to throw them on the roadside? That's like a major road. So it bothers me a lot to see that what happened to Lagos State, because I remember during the time of Fashola, it was very hard for you to even throw as little as toothpick from the window of your bus to the road, because you are scared of Kai or Y or Lasma stopping your bus and say, you know what, pick the entire streets for one thing that you have thrown on the road. So I think we are going back to that, and it just makes sense for all of us, because when the rains come, we know what this will do to our houses, even loss of lives sometimes and properties. But we see that critics have also said that maybe if the government had created alternatives 3 years ago when this law was first introduced, it is just natural for people to just divert their attention to the alternatives, especially when it's something new. And, Nigerians like to say, oh, this is the new thing they are using now, and then we just want to use that thing. Maybe. And I'm glad that maybe this could be the outcome of COP28, that Nigerians, I know we saw the criticisms that Nigeria went to the lot of delegates, but we are beginning to see the results. Because if we now start to talk about even the alternative, the plastic we are talking about, we should also be saying bye-bye to this reusable plastics too, because none of it is even good for our environment to start with. And looking at the example of the fish that you talk about, even when you say it's not my business, there are no debt in front of my house, you consume fish and other water animals. So we still come back to consume these things. But let's talk about the critics now. There's a whole family that belongs to this value chain rely on these things for daily meal. So what are the things that the government wants to do? It is already bad enough in Nigeria as we speak. Everything is on the high side. We're already dealing with a whole lot. So having to add these things, because it even concerns food, everybody eats. So if you're going to add something that would increase the price of food at this point in time, you're looking for chaos. So what is that alternative that you think the government should have put in place first before they start to enact these laws? I know it has been introduced 3 years ago. So 3 years down the line, what are those things that we have introduced for these food vendors to use instead of these styrofoams?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I do not think it is the responsibility of government to provide alternative. Let us be realistic and face facts. In many of the first world countries, as we used to refer to them, when they started making plans to move from petrol vehicle to electric vehicle, it wasn't the government of the countries, most of the countries, that provided alternative for them. It was the companies who saw the potential and do not want to be left behind that started looking for alternative and started doing research. With the exception of China, where we know that most of the companies are government run. All the other countries where they are moving from fossil fuel to electric vehicle, it is usually individual industry player run alternative seeking that takes shape. Apart from fossil fuel, if we look at when the TVs and radios were transitioning from the terrestrial mode of transitioning to the celestial mode, we saw that Nigeria could not meet its targets, I think, for almost 3 times when the thing was shifted. Even as of 2015, when we're supposed to have fully gone celestial in our mode of transmission of, TV and radio facilities, we were still doing a lot of terrestrial. And because we were waiting for government to provide alternative for us, the truth be told, in almost all the countries where they were able to transition really quickly, it was because industry players who knows that this is our pot of soup invested in R&D. They paid universities to support universities. So you see a lot of companies, rather than pay university, they'll go and pay social media influencers. They'll go and be shouting all over the social media and all the rest with a lot of products that are not good. I don't want to use the word, the other word, but a lot of substandard products. Rather than improving on their product, they will pay social media influencer to be broadcasting. So for me, I do not think it is the problem of the government to provide alternative. The only area that I would have wanted the government to do more is to have ensured constant and consistent orientation through all the media means, both electronics, print, social media, and all the rest, to ensure that this message keeps ringing in the ear of the people before now, so that a lot of people would have been preparing their mind. Apart from styrofoam, do you know that the nylon we used to package our sugar, package almost everything, has been banned for almost 10 years in Nigeria? But because it has not been effected, people are not paying attention. Even some of the I know a friend whose family business is along that line, and about 4 years ago, when they were buying new machine, myself and him were discussing, but government has banned this thing. He said, we know, but before they effect it, we would have made our money back on this machine and all. So some of them know, but because they trust that government, like they have been doing for a long time, our government talk more and do less. So they feel that the government will not take action. Eventually, the day government take action, they will still want government to provide alternative. But a wise man would have been seeking alternative, looking at all the biodegradable technology that are being used all over the world. And many of the raw materials for this biodegradable technology are right here with us. If maybe another thing I would have said is maybe government should provide opportunities for people who want to go into biodegradable to be able to have maybe a way to start up or expand. Take, for example, Many of our land in Lagos are being sold to real estate to construct houses. But you and I, we are going to suffer hunger very soon because all the land where we are supposed to plant food, where we are supposed to plant biodegradable material, are being converted now to build houses. You know, all the land in my village is half part in Lagos, half part in Ogun State. All the land there have been sold. And so people cannot go.
I can guess that your village is Ekpe.
Yes. So, all the lands there have been sold. And so if you want to do biodegradable things like the bamboo that they used to do, where would you get land to plant all of those things? So the area that government needs to work is to ensure that there is a Yoruba day that says to plan ahead such that, because all this ministry, their work interrelates together, and if one is not careful, when you do all this ban and people want to go into alternative, there will not even be land for them to start planting biodegradable.
Gbenga, I'm sorry, we have to cut you short here because of our time. But I totally agree with most of what you have said, and then hopefully we'll be able to bring you back to talk more about this, and not just about this. I think to also talk about R&D, because you seem to have been hammering on that. There's a lot to do when it comes to research that Nigeria has not taken advantage of. And then, like you also mentioned, biodegradable products. Next door, Benin Republic, here I was there some years ago, and if you go into a supermarket to use a bag, just to discourage people from using plastic bags and stuff like that, you have to pay extra. So if you know you're going to pay extra, you come with your own bags, take them home, and reuse them rather than throw them away. So there's a whole lot to discuss on this. Thank you so much, Gbenga, for joining us. Unfortunately, that's the much we can take from you, but thank you so much for your contributions. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Gbenga.
Yeah, I think Gbenga spoke a whole lot.
So well, and he was so passionate about it.
So passionate about it, right? And now he's making me begin to think of making my own paper bags.
Yes.
So that I can make
I've always been a fan of, you know, those recyclable
bags.
Yes, because the harm that this causes to the environment is no joke. And it looks like we are sitting on a time bomb. And when it hits us, they will now start to do like an emergency, response to this.
Exactly. All right, we'll take a very quick break. When we come back, we're going to be looking into the forecast for next week. Very short break, like I said. Don't go anywhere. Thank you for staying with us. Very quickly, we're looking into our crystal ball. And first, we're starting in Tanzania as oppositions resume street protests. Now, hundreds of supporters of Tanzania's main opposition party, Chadema, took to the streets of Dar es Salaam, calling for constitutional reforms. The Chadema party advocates for an amendment to the constitution to enable the challenge of presidential elections results in court ahead of the upcoming elections in 2024. The resumption of opposition protests is a call to action for the Tanzanian government to tackle the high cost of living in the country.
And then in Mali, a search has continued amid fears that the toll from the 70 cases recorded last week could rise. Now, Africa's #3 gold-producing nation, such tragedies are becoming usual due to the ignorance of safety measures, especially in remote areas and unregulated mining. And then finally, on the forecast, we can tell you that the next country that we'll be looking at now is Nigeria, where the head of the EU delegation to Nigeria and ECOWAS Ambassador Samuel Sopi disclosed that the European Union has said it will invest 18 million euros to fund vaccine research in Nigeria from 2024 to 2034.
And that's the most we can take concerning our forecast. We thank you so much for joining us on Reporters Africa this week. We hope that you join us again same time next week, same station. My name is Bernard Akede.
And I am Adesewa Odusoga. See you next week.